So you are in New York today, or it's just this beautiful view of the United Nations we have behind you?
I'm in a New York state of mind today. I'm actually near Seattle.
Oh, I see. It's been a year, right, now that you have been, you have this office, the UN Affairs Office. Tell us a little bit, how did it start, the idea of the office?
Well, as you say, techplomacy has been a word that's entered the vocabulary, at least some of us, in the last few years, as the issues that we're working on have global significance, and we find ourselves operating as global companies, engaging with governments locally, but also realizing that a lot of the solutions to these global problems do involve multilateral solutions, and that we as a company have been participating in inclusive multilateralism. That is, we want to participate in addressing the climate crisis. We want to participate in advancing cybersecurity. We want to very much participate in how the world addresses the digital divide. And so when we look at these big issues, what we see is the United Nations is increasingly a center of activity where business and governments can work to kind of amplify and make each other more successful in achieving those public goals.
Microsoft is working with the World Health Organization on a number of projects. How did this latest collaboration started?
At the beginning of the pandemic, Dr. Tedros reached out to a number of tech companies and to our leaders, Satya Nadella, our CEO, and Brad Smith, our president, asking for assistance. As a company, we immediately jumped in and said, well, how can we help? And so we brought technical teams in to try to figure out the kind of projects that they'd identified to be helpful. And one of them is just, their website was not built for worldwide demand at the scale of a global pandemic. And so, in a major process of rebuilding a website that can scale for all the needs of medical communities, governments, and individuals. Also, looking at point solutions, like how can hospitals evaluate their COVID preparedness? And we're not experts on COVID preparedness in hospitals, but we're good partners on the technology side, working with the experts in the WHO to come up with solutions that can be broadly available. Perhaps the most interesting project and the most ambitious is trying to create a unified data platform for the WHO. And so we've been working with WHO on an architecture to allow them to unify their data platforms so that they can have much greater research capacity, and that they can open that to researchers around the world.
So, but what about Microsoft's digital inclusion initiative to bring broadband access to rural Africa?
All of us have experienced this common phenomenon over the past year of the COVID pandemic. And for those of us fortunate to be able to sort of shift to work online, the disruption has been significant, but we've all carried on. But the digital divide is deeper and wider than before. And we need to address the digital divide domestically, even in wealthy countries, as well as the majority of people around the world who just don't have opportunities to connect. So we've been promoting the idea of getting more people connected and looking at in a tech neutral way, looking at a variety of radio-based technologies that are lower cost, and trying to think about defining connectivity not by whether or not you can get a cell phone coverage anywhere in a country, but is it delivered at an affordable price that schools and government services can be delivered and be used. And so, some countries have got much lower cost of connectivity and broadband access and others. So we believe that if we can define properly a human-centric notion of connectivity that includes affordability, that this broader range of technologies can play a big part in connecting more people. But that's just the start. We also need to think about the services and the skills that people need. And so we've also been contributing to skills initiatives, trying to get people, frankly, who haven't done any computer work at all before. We've got a 40-hour course that is being delivered in country through UN offices and the national governments. Basically, the majority of the people taking it are coming into the workforce who are women, and it's giving them some basic computer skills so they can take advantage of the connectivity.
So you're working individually with the governments, with other organizations, and of course the United Nations agencies, I imagine, the International Telecommunications Union.
My colleague Jean-Yves in Geneva was just participating in an ITU meeting today, talking about this idea of connectivity and how do we advance it. There's a great deal of interest, and one of the challenges and one of the things we can do is, I think, add value by helping bring in some of the private sector people and trying to improve the coordination between private sector and how governments have been going about this. Because I think there's great dedication, there's great skills in government, and sometimes we in the private sector just don't have the knowledge about how to work as well with government as we should.
What about the Learning Passport project with UNICEF, the UN Refugees Agency, and Cambridge University?
The Learning Passport's a really exciting project because originally it was scoped to look at refugees and displaced people students who move around, but can they keep a uniform curriculum as they go? And so with Cambridge University working on the curriculum aspects and Microsoft working on the technology, it's a project that can work both online and offline because people aren't going to be connected all the time. And so, as a student, if a student moves locations, they will be able to continue their curriculum and we hope be able to learn more. But that same platform turns out to be quite useful in a COVID period where students are essentially displaced from their schools. And so, it's been working with UNICEF and the national offices, rolling it out in additional countries. And it's a great example of, collaboration between, governments who know how to deliver these, the fundamental services of education, bringing in Cambridge with their expertise in curricula, and us learning from those two about how we can have a technology solution that meets the needs of students.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the UN Affairs Office?
We're pioneering this role of creating a UN Affairs Office. I think we're the first company to open one, and we will be opening office space close to the UN this summer. But there is a huge opportunity for whether it's environmental sustainability, skills training, cybersecurity, for the private sector, which wants to play a greater role in advancing social goods. It is part of corporate culture today. And I think the UN is really, through things like the Global Compact, encourage companies to take responsibility and step up. And so, we're here. We want to bring others with us. We want to learn from the UN community. We want to find ways that we can be helpful.